Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Thursday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing awesome out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day. And I hope everyone's been having a great week out there so far. We got a couple things to go over in this morning's video. The first thing we'll talk about is today's severe weather threat across portions of the South. There is a level 2 out of risk of severe weather, a slight risk. So the first thing we'll cover is the latest from the Storm Prediction Center and their outlook, and then we'll break it down state by state. After we do that, we will cover the rest of the country as far as today's forecast, and then we'll have a very small section at the end of the video covering Friday into this weekend's interior New England snow event that could unfold. Some areas could get some pretty heavy late season wet snow, so we'll speak on that, the evolution of the storm system, the same low that's pivoting across the eastern section of the country that's going to bring the severe weather chances for today. And there is a little bit of a severe weather risk for tomorrow also, is what's actually going to be responsible to bring in some of that snow that we're going to talk about at the end of the video for areas of the Northeast. So we'll speak on it all. We'll break it down. Timestamps will be up throughout the entire video. And then at the very end, we will have a new Bible devotion for you folks. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below, folks. If you need to reach out to somebody, talk to someone, if it's an unspoken prayer request, it's very slow right now. So I'm able to spend a lot more time on the comments, on the messages you guys send me on social media. So, if you need to reach out to someone, you need to talk to somebody, I'm here for you. There's a lot of people in the comments that will be here for you also. It's an awesome family-like atmosphere. You'll pick up on that if you're a first-time viewer or just been viewing a couple times here and there. If you read the comments, it's all positivity. So definitely reach out if you need help, you need a special prayer request or anything like that. So with that being said, let's get rocking and rolling this morning. So this is the latest from the Storm Prediction Center. As far as their outlook, this could tweak a little bit, but there has been some changes in a good way, I would say. So latest outlook, we have a slight risk. Now, I know it is cutting off certain sections of Arkansas and Missouri as far as like town names and stuff like that, but you kind of get the general picture. We'll start west to east. We do have a slight risk, level 2 out of 5, that extends into northeast Arkansas, southeast Missouri, including all of the Boot Hill, Missouri. Very small section of southern Illinois, goes all the way up into western areas of Kentucky, includes portions of middle and western Tennessee, and all the northern half of Mississippi and Alabama, all the way back into northwest and western areas of Georgia, including Atlanta and places like that. So we got level 2 out of 5 risk. Memphis, just south of Memphis to Atlanta, Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, Tupelo, Huntsville, Florence, Jackson, all these areas. Level 1 out of 5 risk, marginal risk of severe weather, extends all the way up through basically the entire state of Kentucky. Does include sections of southern Illinois, big area of southern Indiana, and then portions of southwest Ohio. Goes all the way back into western North Carolina, the Greenville-Spartanburg area of South Carolina, all the way down to Macon, all the way down to Montgomery, Jackson, Mississippi, all the way back to just about Little Rock. I do think the risk of severe weather is a bit more conditional the further west you get. Further east you get, the more coverage we will have with these storms. So this is the latest outlook. Now, as far as the tornado outlook, if you remember in yesterday morning's video, we had a 2% risk of tornadoes. Now, I could see this getting reissued. In fact, I actually mentioned in yesterday morning's video that there might be a bump up to a 5% risk, but there's actually not even a 2% risk. Doesn't mean that there's a 0 chance of a tornado today. Guys, that's not what I'm saying, but it is below a 2% risk per the Storm Prediction Center. So that's pretty wild. Normally when you get a slight risk, you a lot of times at least get a 2% risk of a tornado. It's actually downtrended, so that's good. That's good news. But we do have a risk of damaging winds because of the steep lapse rates, and that's really what's driving this. And you're probably hearing me say lapse rates. You're like, dude, what in the world are you talking about? Well, at the surface, it might be in the upper 60s, low 70s as far as temperatures. Not even that hot outside in these areas today, but the temperatures cool off pretty dramatically the further you get up in the atmosphere. So that difference in temperatures from the surface to the upper levels of the atmosphere creates energy in the atmosphere. It creates storm fuel, CAPE. So that actually is going to throw enough energy in the atmosphere in these areas because of that difference in temperatures to create fuel in the atmosphere for these storms, even though it's not going to feel like storms today in these areas. Like you're not going to have very moist air in place. It's kind of a weird day, and that's how these upper level lows work, which is what's driving this event. But damaging winds today in this yellow area, there's a 15% risk of it, of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour, basically in the entire slight risk I just broke down, within 25 miles in any given location. And then the hail threat. So listen, the hail threat needs to be taken serious today. I don't think we're going to get gigantic sized hail or anything, but these storms could produce a lot of small hail. So, hail maybe as high end as an 1.5 inches, 1 3/4 in size, diameter wise. But, I think that these storms just could produce a lot of hail. I wouldn't be surprised we get some wild videos, pictures today of just hail covering the ground in some of these regions. So don't let this catch you by surprise. The atmosphere supports that. We got these long straight lines on the hodographs, which supports hail sounding. So we're definitely going to get hail. If you go under a severe thunderstorm warning in this area today, and that storm's heading right towards you, there's a solid chance it's going to at least produce some small pea-sized hail. So this is the latest outlook. Remember, this could change. Now let's break it down state by state. We're not going to try to get everybody in this outlook. We'll start off around lunchtime today in the state of Missouri. Most of the state will be fine, but I will take it into the afternoon. You'll see some energy in the southeastern portion of the state. There's some storms in the Boot Hill, Missouri. My face is kind of in the way down here. So this is around 5 p.m. Still in the way. This is 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m. Some storms could, happen. St. Louis very well could, but really all this energy is confined to southeastern Missouri. And all in all, it's not even worth spending a whole lot of time. Missouri should be pretty much okay today. Definitely no severe weather outbreak or anything like that. Cooler, dry air filters in very fast. Arkansas kind of the same way. You do have a slight risk, though, in portions of the state. We get into 3 p.m. time frame up here. We get into 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m., maybe some storms. Even though it shows hardly nothing on this run, 6 p.m. This evening in Arkansas, there could very well be strong to severe storms in areas of the eastern portions of the state. But here's a strong to severe storms that pops up here, along the Mississippi River, the border of Mississippi and Arkansas near Greenville. But you continue to keep these going. We could get some strong to severe storms. Actually, it's showing more storms in the southeastern portion of the state rather than the northeastern portion of the state, which is where they're calling for a higher chance of severe weather. But, you get into this evening and you're thinking, well, that didn't really show much, and it doesn't. So there might not be a whole lot. It's more of a conditional risk in Missouri and Arkansas today. Now, we take it over to, we're going to include southern Illinois, southern Indiana, and portions of southwestern Ohio into this. And then obviously Kentucky and Tennessee, and then we'll drop it south in Alabama and Mississippi. But this is starting out this morning. We do have some energy making its way through the eastern portions of Kentucky and Tennessee. This will continue to move into the Appalachian Mountains through late morning, early afternoon period. And we'll see what that does in the Carolinas later this afternoon. And then the atmosphere becomes primed for some strong to severe storms. So this is around 4 p.m. We got a little energy moving into western Kentucky, western Tennessee, some pop-up strong storms that could produce hail, some damaging winds, getting going here along the Cumberland Plateau, west and east of it. And then we keep these going. Could get some storms around Knoxville, the Tri-Cities region of Tennessee, all the way into Gatlinburg. Pigeon Forge, Johnson City, some storms around Chattanooga. This is 6 p.m. Remember, this particular run isn't going to be perfect. Just trying to give us the best idea. It already looks a little different compared to yesterday's run around this time. But we do got some strong to severe storms around Knoxville. These could produce hail. I'm going to keep saying that. Damaging winds. There is a very small risk of a tornado. And then we get kind of this area of energy that surges out of Missouri and Illinois, that begins to move across the kind of starts to get into the middle portions of Kentucky and Tennessee. We still got the storms up here near Carbondale, Effingham. We got to watch out for these. This is around 7 p.m. 8 p.m. Storms are moving through middle Tennessee, central Kentucky. These could pack a punch. Gusty winds, hail. And then we get some storms around Evansville, around dinner time, give or take an hour. And, this isn't exactly what's going to happen. It's kind of one of those days where it's going to be tough to figure out where these storms will pop up. But in general, you get the idea. We could just get very widespread showers and storms throughout this entire area, especially in Kentucky and Tennessee today. And then this will kind of pivot around, get into the mountains. And I really think we have a chance at getting some wet snow and like the Smokies of Tennessee and North Carolina. I mean, maybe even getting into some of the higher elevations of southwestern North Carolina. Some very high up elevations to get a few inches of wet snow. So, and we drop it down to Mississippi and Alabama. We could definitely get some hailstorms up down here today. This is 4 p.m., 5 p.m. You see those storms in northwestern Georgia. I'm telling you, if you live in northern Alabama, northwestern Georgia, northern Mississippi, any storms that fire up today, this will probably be the better area. If there is going to be any tornado warnings or a brief tornado, it's going to happen in this region. But these storms are going to produce a lot of hail, guys. Do not let it catch. Don't. If it starts hailing and stuff, you're like, man, I didn't know this was coming. Don't let it catch you off guard. I'm telling you, you might not get a drop of rain, but if you do get hit by one of these storms, it can produce a lot of small hail. So we get into 8 p.m. It doesn't show a whole lot up near Tupelo, Huntsville, Florence. This is 8 p.m., so we got some storms kind of making its way through central Alabama and Mississippi. They're just very widely scattered. Somebody, you might go throughout the whole entire afternoon and evening and might not get a drop of rain, but this is 10 p.m. We still got these storms around, and they will begin to kind of drop southeastward as they pivot around this upper low, and then eventually, actually, as they get into Carolina, start to pivot back northeastward. But storms, it's around midnight. Storms making its way all the way to Jackson, Meridian, Hattiesburg, Montgomery, and they might make it all the way to the Gulf Coast line, to the Panhandle, but they begin to pivot back into Georgia and the Carolinas throughout the wee hours of the morning. So very widely scattered. Just if your county gets under a severe thunderstorm warning, even a strong storm could produce a ton of hail. Georgia, South Carolina, we get into 3 p.m. We could get some heavy rain that might make its way through northern Georgia, the upstate of South Carolina later today. But it's really as we're getting into this evening, we get to get some strong to severe storms that make their way into northern Georgia, 6, 7, 8 o'clock. Rome, Helen, anybody up here in northern Georgia, these storms could pack a punch today. A lot of hail, damaging winds, and they get close to Atlanta around or just after, bedtime for the kids. So some storms begin to move into the Atlanta Metro, Athens, Rome. We get into 10 p.m. Storms start to, still affect Atlanta. Then we get some storms all the way down to Augusta, Columbia, Rock Hill. It's around 11 p.m. tonight, so it's getting pretty late. Sun's obviously down. This is midnight. And, you stop it here. It's around midnight tonight. We're getting scattered showers and storms everywhere across the northern half of Georgia, central, upstate of South Carolina. So, definitely just going to be an on and off kind of stormy night in these areas. And then we get into 3 a.m. in the morning, just blobs of heavy rain. Rain makes it all the way into Myrtle Beach by the wee hours of the morning tomorrow morning. And then we're waking up tomorrow for your Friday morning. Sun's coming up, and we're probably going to have scattered downpours, all over the place. And then North Carolina and Virginia. We'll have this energy that's moving out of Kentucky and eastern Tennessee right now and West Virginia. We'll get some rain throughout West Virginia for the morning. And then by the time we get into this afternoon, this stuff starts to get east of the mountains. Begins to, we get some rain. It begins to move into Roanoke, Harrisburg, up to Charlottesville, Danville, Hickory. Will this try to strengthen? It could. So by the time we're in 8 p.m., some storms could begin to hit Raleigh, all the way up through central VA. I don't think these have the best ingredients to work with as they do back west, but the ingredients will begin to build in this region a little bit better. But this is getting into this evening. We got some storms making its way through North Carolina, or either just some rounds of heavy rain, Virginia still. And then we get into the wee hours of the morning. We could have a broken line of storms surging through the eastern sections of North Carolina, southeastern Virginia. And then we start to wake up tomorrow morning, and then we'll have another episode of weather for these regions. So I don't have the updraft velocity swath up. Just know that I would say I would favor northern Alabama, northern Mississippi, up into Tennessee, for the biggest risk of storms that could produce just a ton of hail and some strong gusty winds and a brief tornado. So be aware in those areas today. As far as the rest of the country, this is the radar, what's going on right now. Some scattered moisture surging through areas of the upper Midwest and Midwest. We got heavier rounds of rain that I just spoke on, moving through Kentucky all the way down to Tennessee, and just scattered rain across the Ohio Valley. A little bit of snow flying around in areas. Let me know who's seeing snow in the comments up here. Some snow moving into southern Ontario. So this little system and this energy associated with it will stick with us for a while. Most of the west is quiet. Watches, warnings, and advisories. The pink is red flag warnings. We continue to have fire danger in these regions, and flood warnings closer to the riverbeds and the rivers and just the streams, stuff like that from all the rain we've gotten over the last 10 days or so. But elsewhere, it's pretty quiet. Storm Prediction Center, we've already broke this down, but there is a general risk in that light green going from Iowa all the way to the southeast and mid-Atlantic coastline. But we've already discussed this. But the excessive rainfall outlook is below 5%, so no outlook shows up. And we've already covered the southeast, so we're going to jump right to the northeast. But we got this energy making its way across, west and east of the Appalachian Mountains right now. This will continue, and we'll get mainly a chilly rain. But if you live an extra 500 to 1,000 feet up, this can fall in the form of some wet snow in areas of PA, New York State. So it's just kind of one of those days where the temperatures are right on the fringe of producing snow, but could just stay rain for certain areas. We could get a strong storm or two in southeastern Ohio. Show some storms in this region to the panhandle of West Virginia, the western panhandle. And then we got a strong storm or two that tries to sneak into southwestern PA. Watch out, Pittsburgh. Listen, don't want to ignore these storms up here. There could be a marginal hail threat for these storms right up here. And if you look at the Storm Prediction Center outlook, there's no risk of thunderstorms even up into Pittsburgh, but I'm telling you right now, we could get some storms in the southwestern PA today. So a light mixture of rain and snow begins to move into certain sections of southern New England. It does show it's snowing all the way down to Rhode Island based off this run of the HRRR model. But I definitely think the Berkshires, the Catskills, the Poconos could see some wet snow from this. And then the energy gets kind of broken up overnight, and then we wake up tomorrow morning. Do I think a deeper area of moisture that begins to move into the Poconos, the Catskills, and we could have some heavy snow falling in these areas, and this will open the door to kind of a long duration period, not super long, but a period of an opportunity for some snow in some of these higher elevation interior locations of the interior Northeast. Repeating a lot of words there, but we'll have another segment for the rest of Friday and Saturday for the end of the video. But the Southern Plains continues to be quiet. There's nothing to speak on. We've already talked on the severe weather to the east that you see there. But outside of that, man, there's nothing to really talk about. Same thing with the upper Midwest. We do have some energy making its way through. Could get some storms in eastern Iowa today, so be aware of that. These storms could produce some small hail with a lot of cold air around. But outside of that, not a whole lot. Not a whole lot to speak on. Western U.S., it's also quiet. We will have another system that moves in later this afternoon along the Oregon and Washington coastline. This will bring just some light rainfall totals, but nothing you guys can't handle, that's for sure. Y'all are used to the rain. Temperatures, upper low pivoting around. So, there's not a ton of warm air across the eastern U.S. It's not super cold for the Northeast, but still a chilly day. Mid-Atlantic begins to warm up. We get to the upper Southeast, Deep South, Mid-South areas. Then it starts to get into the 60s and 70s. Still a pool of cool air up here in the Great Lakes region, the Ohio Valley, though. And then temperatures across the west beginning to warm up for everybody across the board. Just a nice day. You're starting to creep close to 100 degrees in Death Valley, so we're getting deeper into the year now. Now, I do want to give a little segment to the Northeast. I know I got people tuning in from this region. This is waking up tomorrow morning based off the Euro run. Interior, New England snow. And then I do think the second round of moisture will break up, and then we'll have a larger round of moisture that begins to move in as we get into Saturday morning. And this is when we can get some heavy interior Northeast snow. The Poconos, the Catskills, the Berkshires. Heck, even some snow could fall in the Worcester Hills and kind of the central portion of Mass. It's very possible. We could get some wet snowfall accumulations. Now, it's getting into mid-April, so this is definitely one of those events that is really elevation driven. You got to, if you're an extra 500 to 1,000 feet up from everybody else up on a hill or a mountain, small mountain, it makes a big difference. It's kind of one of them things where, you're driving up higher up and then all of a sudden everything turns white. It's just kind of one of those events. So this is getting into Saturday morning. This is Saturday midday. Precipitation begins to lighten up, and then by the time we get into Sunday morning, the rain could just meander off the coast of the Northeast, but will be close enough to where areas of like Southeast Mass, Rhode Island can continue to get rain throughout most of the weekend. And this is snowfall. I don't have any individual maps up, but you can see how it really, even the Poconos, some wet snow, but you can see the Catskills up to the areas of like the southern Adirondacks could get several inches of snow. There's even areas right in here in the higher elevations that could get 6 to 8 inches of wet snow. You start to get into this purple color, this is where we could get over 6 inches of snow. You know, Robin, I know you live here in southern Vermont. You have to let me know what you see off this, but a few inches of wet snow in the Berkshires, a little bit of snow all the way up into the Green and White Mountains, and then a little bit of snow probably all the way up into Maine, and I will show Maine here. This is just between now and that's pretty much the entire event. So a little bit of wet snow up in the Maine western section. So that's all I got, guys. I'm going to flip it back to this so we have something to kind of go back to. But I do have some scripture for you guys. We can get in the Word here in the Bible. This morning we are in Joshua chapter 1, and it's verse 9. So Joshua chapter 1, verse 9. It says, "Haven't I commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go." And, you know, I really think this is just a really great and powerful reminder that even in tough and challenging times, you know, where we're going through just a lot, in a valley, I like to use that word a lot, you know, God, just a reminder that God is with us, His presence, you know, His guidance, His just the way that He wants us to live our life. It's still with us, and it's sufficient enough for those who, you know, who trust in Him. And I think that, you know, it's hard to completely understand that, just me telling you. And, you know, if you're going through a really tough situation, if someone was just to kind of go up to you and tell you that, you know, it probably isn't going to immediately make you feel better, but and it could, you know, God works in mysterious ways. He can immediately work. But what I would say is, you know, as a follower of Christ, you got to continue to, you know, build your relationship with Him. The more you do, the more that the scripture will really, you know, apply and work the best in your life, I guess you could say. So, you know, you as an individual have to continue to, you know, build that relationship with Christ, whatever that may be, going to church, hanging out with other fellow believers, getting out your comfort zone, seeking His will in your life. Everybody should be doing that. Having some quiet time. Guys, I can't tell you how much that's changed my life. You know, I wake up at 3:30 about 4 times a week, and the other 3 times a week I get up at like 4:30 or 5. So, and 5 o'clock is, I mean, 5 o'clock in the morning to me is like equivalent to someone else's like 10 o'clock. You know, by about, I'll say this, by like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, I mean, I've done worked out, I've done read the Bible, I've done ate breakfast, I mean, I've done mowed the grass, just about, I'm just kidding. I've done, you know, took the dog to the dentist to get his hair cut. I mean, did so much by 7 o'clock, and most people hadn't even got going. And that's just not, I'm not tooting my own horn, guys, and I'm not saying wake up at 3:30 in the morning, but I'm saying, you know, waking up early and really making Christ a priority right in your life. Getting in the Word, praying, just having some quiet time, it really just renews your mind. It does. And then, you know, kind of get back to the scripture we just talked about, what I just read you, really begins to kind of marinate in your soul, if you will. And it really begins to make sense. It really helps you, is what I'm trying to say. So, you know, and I can say that about anything that you're reading the Bible. You know, I can read a lot of things in the Bible. Someone else could read a lot of, whether it's your pastor, you know, a lot of people can read things to you in the Bible and it might just go right over your head. But, you know, you as an individual also have to continue to strive to build your relationship with Christ for that to really just click. I hope that makes sense. So that's my devotion for the day. Just, you know, during those really tough times, you know, be strong, be courageous. And I don't know, that verse fires me up. We're called to be strong, guys. And I know that's tough, because some people are going through some really awful things, really terrible things that I don't know how I would handle if I was going through them. I've been through some things, but someone's always going through something worse. Someone's losing a child, which is something that even when I think about it brings just a nasty chill down my spine. But some people's dealing with a lot of bad things. So I always believe that I'm a big believer that when everything, a lot of people want to say this, that, and when you're in your lowest, that's when you really have the best opportunity to really build your relationship with Christ. And it's true. It's very, very true. That's when a lot of people, go to church. They seek change to change their lives, and it drives them to do that. And, that's great. But to me, I've always viewed it also strongly on the other side of things. To me, when everything's going awesome, when everything's going great, it just feels like everything's clicking, you're moving, nothing bad's happened for a while. To me, that's when I almost have just a moment of just like appreciation. And that's when I can walk outside and say, God, I really appreciate, what's this calmness in my life right now. Nothing's going bad. And that's when I really, those times, what I'm trying to say is those times, talking about strength, when things are really just rolling, you got a ton of momentum, that's when I really start to strengthen my core, my foundation, my relationship with Christ the most. So when those valleys come, when those blows of life come, you're stronger than ever. You know there's a valley coming. You don't want to be, you don't want to be gullible to the point where you just think it's just going to stay, there's nothing's going to happen anytime soon. Something's always looming around the corner to slap you in the face, whether your car's breaking down, your boyfriend, girlfriend breaks up with you, whatever it may be. But in those times of calm, are you strengthening yourself? Are you really building that relationship with Christ? And you should be doing it all the time, right? But you get what I'm saying. Like, you take advantage of that calmness, right? That there's this time where nothing bad's happening. I mean, I would encourage you guys to do that. That's when I really draw the most strength. So when that valley comes, I'm ready. I'm ready. So the armor of Christ, right? So that's all I got. I enjoy doing these devotions. I really appreciate the feedback. You guys, I can't tell you how much it really, how great it makes me feel when I read the positive feedbacks on these devotions. And the best way I know how to do it is to read scripture and apply it to daily life. And I know a lot of people do that, and that's what I feel like I'm the most comfortable doing it. But at the same time, I always want to go back to pointing to Christ and how it obviously relates to scripture and the Bible and things like that. So that's all I got. God bless all y'all. Have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you again in the morning.